All right, we're going to get started. I'm April Miller. I'm a senior civil engineer for the city of San Rafael. And tonight we're here to talk about the 3rd Street rehabilitation and safety projects on 3rd Street. I'm just going to start off by going over the agenda. You want to switch slides? Okay, so we're going to start by kind of going over the background of the project, a funding and budget update, and then we're going to go over a couple of the key issues that we've discussed before, and we've received comments in the last several months since we last met. Then we will follow up with the construction process, and then we'll go into kind of the next steps for the project. I'm going to turn it over to Lauren, who's going to go over how to make comments during this meeting.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for attending tonight. So questions and comments will be taken after each agenda section. And to ask your questions, we're in Zoom, so please use the raise hand option. On the phone, you can press *9. You'll get a notification to unmute when it's your turn, and then you press *6 to speak. If you're in Zoom, I can lower your hand and then you'll be unmuted. Another important point is we want to limit people's comments to about 1 minute and to ensure that everyone has an opportunity to speak tonight. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for joining us this evening to talk about the 3rd Street project and the project update. My name is Robert Stevens, and I've been with you through last year on several of these engagements, and we really appreciate your feedback. It's allowed us to get this far. So to get a flavor of our audience, Lauren has a great poll for us to see who's here participated in this project before. So Lauren, can you please do this survey?
And while everyone answers the questions, just one thing to point out, if you have any questions for the panelists, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your Zoom and enter in your questions so that we can respond and that everybody can see the responses. The chat function only goes to the panelists.
And also at the close of each chapter of our presentation, we're going to be pausing for a Q&A session. So give us a couple of minutes to get through a couple of sections, and then we'll be able to take your questions and comments on that specific section.
All right, most of you voted. Thank you. I'm going to try to share the results. So as you can see, most folks have been to a meeting. Thanks so much for whatever meeting you came to and shared some feedback with us.
Thank you, Lauren. So for those of you that have been here before, some of this initial information might seem repetitive, but please bear with us. I think you might find some facets of this that are pretty interesting. Again, this is the 3rd Street Rehabilitation Project. And as you can see on your screen, this is the area of the project. It's along all of 3rd Street from just east of Union Street to 2nd Street. And then again along 2nd Street from West Street to just east of Shaver Street. And this work is all within the public rights of way, which is the streets and the sidewalks. It doesn't involve any major encroachments into private property. So as Lauren and April has mentioned, this couldn't have been possible. This was a really great community collaborative effort, which the team has been working with stakeholders since July of 2017. A couple key facets of this was that there was a feasibility report that was presented to City Council in June of 2019, and City Council provided feedback allowing us to move forward into the final design phase. We had a great presentation last November, and then we had a few updates to the BPAC in December and February that really helped us sort of refine those plans. And we'll be going through some of those details tonight. So this project goals, as many of you know, this is a basic infrastructure project. We're rehabilitating pavement, updating traffic signals, repairing accessible ramps. But where we can, we're really improving access and safety for cyclists and pedestrians. There's nothing in the project that hampers any flow for vehicles or transit or emergency services. And we're also enhancing the street trees, the tree canopy along the corridor. And where possible, we're improving safe routes to school. And I think the key point behind this is we're creating really an economically viable project. We're building something that we have funds to complete. So as you can see, this is a typical downtown intersection. This would be like the A, the B, the C, the D streets. We're rehabilitating pavement, and at the intersections where pedestrians are found, we're creating bulb outs and other enhancements so we can improve pedestrian circulation and safety at each one of these locations. And we're retrofitting street trees where there currently is no street trees. At 2nd Street and East Street, this is a view looking towards the west. We're adding a new traffic signal at this intersection, and this is going to assist pedestrians as they're trying to cross 2nd Street into the shopping centers located to the north of 2nd Street. You'll see here on the south side of the roadway, this is a bikeway. It's a two-way exclusive facility for use by cyclists. Here is a artistic rendering looking to the west of the bikeway. You can see an area for cyclists, and you can see an improved sidewalk for pedestrians. So funding for a complex project like this comes from many, many sources. One, and probably the most important, is the Measure A funds, or the gas tax money. That funds most of the paving and street improvements along the corridor. We're also fortunate to have state as well as City of San Rafael funds that help augment these improvements. And another key important component is the HSIP fund, which is the Highway Safety Improvement Program, which really promotes safety of crossings in the red boxed area here from Lindaro to Grand Street. This is a federal funding source that the city was awarded through a competitive grant program. So here, you've probably seen these before. On our left is a pie chart that shows our available budget. And you can see here we have about $13.9 million, predominantly from Measure A, but state and local funds make up almost $4 million of that. And then you can see on the right is our costs. And each one of these bars represents a component of the cost. For instance, our streets and sidewalks represent about $6 million of the project. Electrical infrastructure is traffic signals, lights, and fiber optic communications infrastructure. That's about $3.7 million. And the bar you can see on the right is the Hazard Safety Improvement Program, which is about $2.6 million of the project. You can see our available budget and our project costs are almost equal. So we're really close. We have a well-defined project. We've added some additional components into it. We have some additional funds. So we actually have a pretty robust project, and we're in a pretty good place to build this. We just want to make everybody aware that Marin Municipal Water District and the San Rafael Sanitation District are joining in this project to rehabilitate their infrastructure as we're doing the surface improvements. And we're doing this as a collaborative effort to reduce the amount of disruption that could occur to folks in the downtown area due to construction. These costs are not included in either the budget or the costs above because they are pass-through costs. So with that, we'd like to hear any comments or questions regarding this introduction. And then after that, we'll go into some of the updates for tonight.
I will give folks a minute to get any questions in, but right now I don't have any.
Thank you for
Oh.
the written comment.
Amy Lykover?
Hi. My question is very brief, and I'm sure you've given a lot of thought to this already, but I just thought I'd, as one citizen, that I would cast a vote for shade trees, considering where we live and that it's so starkly concrete there, rather than decorative trees that tend to get lost in the urban cityscape of 3rd Street. So something, grand, large, tree-lined feeling to the street that would then be planted so that the trunks and the roots could actually gain ground, that it be accommodated for in a way that would be large rather than small. Thank you.
Next speaker is Binky.
Hi, thanks. I wasn't sure if you wanted us to just write the comments. I was just looking at the pie chart and I noticed that it was $985,000 for the SHIP funds, but it looks like $2,600,000 for the SHIP costs. I just wondered if someone could explain that discrepancy and how that works. That was just confusing to me.
Yes, sorry, Binky, for that. So the $2.6 million is actually the total cost for the safety project, because there's actually 2 projects that are going to be built concurrently. And so although the HSIP, like the money that we're getting from HSIP is only about $1 million, there's other money that's paying for the rest of it. So that project total is 2.6 million.
Oh, okay. Where's the other funding coming from?
We're getting about $1 million from the Measure A, or a portion of the Measure A is going into that project.
Oh, I see. So some of that 9,100,000 is being allocated for the SHIP
Yes.
project. Okay,
Yes.
so that's where that's going to come from.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
And then just to comment about the trees, there's a robust series of street trees that are perfect for an urban environment, and they're perfect for San Rafael's habitat. Have a look at the city's website. All the tree species are depicted online.
No other question.
Sounds like everybody's an expert. Thank you all. So let's move on to some of the updates, some of the work we've been doing since we last met in November. So the Lindaro-Lutens intersection here at Walgreens. This is the Walgreens here. There's been a lot of comment on the public about not closing the driveway that enters 3rd Street. And the project team's been hard at work at this and has come up with a revised plan that modifies the Walgreens driveway to allow exit only. You can see here in the revised plan, you can leave Walgreens driveway and travel down 3rd Street. This meets the city's and many folks, stakeholders' goals of improving pedestrian safety at this crossing and allowing flow of vehicles from the Walgreens lot. We've also done a little bit of additional work regarding basic infrastructure along the corridor. For many of you that might not know this, there's a giant culvert that goes underneath 2nd Street, just west of Shaver. And we've spent some time down in there in the early morning hours of February, and we found some areas that needed some repairs, and the city's going to make those repairs to keep this culvert working for the next 100 years. Here we talked a lot about the 2nd Street and G Street connection. So here, G Street is on the top of the screen. North is looking up. Down at the bottom of the screen is the big hillside. And as we've discussed, the bikeway is located along the south side paralleling 2nd Street. And the question's been, if I'm a cyclist and I'm a pedestrian and I want to cross 2nd Street, there's a potential for a conflict in this zone. So we've come up with the concept of making this area a shared mixing zone for bicyclists and pedestrians. And we're going to use a colored and textured pavement as well as a vertical ramp. So if I'm traveling as a cyclist down the bikeway, I will go up a ramp, a very gentle slope that takes me 6 inches up to sidewalk grade, where I mix with pedestrians that are crossing here. And if I'm a cyclist, maybe I stop, I wait for the signal, and I walk my bike across the crosswalk here, and I progress to downtown. So this is the concept that we've come up with to solve the modal challenges here at this intersection. And again, we've heard the concern about extending the 2nd Street bikeway from West Street to West End Avenue. And this yellow area here, this is an interim extension. And as many of you have heard before, the city has a future project that's going to modify the 2nd and 4th Street intersection. But until that project can be planned and funds can be aligned for that, we've come up with a potential solution to actually extend the bikeway to West End. And here is an example of it. You can see here, this street right here is West Street on the right side of your screen. West End Avenue with Marquard here is on the left side of the screen. The Class 4 facility is progressives on the south side of 2nd Street, west all the way to Marquard. The existing right turn lane that allows vehicles to turn right and enter 2nd Street is preserved, but it's modified and shortened. So it acts more like a typical intersection where a vehicle would take a right, potentially stop at a new stoplight, and then enter 2nd Street when permitted. Cyclists heading in the westbound direction would also have an exclusive protected lane for them to actually progress through the intersection. But just like today, vehicles would not be allowed to travel north on Marquard onto 2nd Street. Vehicles would still be allowed to turn left from 2nd Street onto Marquard. This option allows for any future modifications that are contemplated for the 2nd and 4th Street intersection, and that preserve the investment that will be made by these improvements. So as we are improving and increasing bike service along 2nd Street, we want to be aware and we want to make it safe for cyclists as they're traveling at night. And as we know, along this section of 2nd Street, there are a lot of driveways. And driveways and bikes at night that could represent a conflict if there's not proper lighting. So the project is proposing to add pedestrian scale lighting to improve lighting of the bikeway, as well as to provide enhanced lighting at the intersections for pedestrian safety. So this exhibit is a photometric plot, and the areas that are in yellow with the red boxes around them are the areas we're really trying to target for illumination. And you can see here at 2nd Street, this is targeting improved intersection safety lighting for pedestrians that are crossing 2nd Street, as well as lighting at the driveways so cyclists can be seen by cars that potentially could be pulling out of their driveways. The blue circles are existing street lights that are there today. Those will not be modified. The red circles represent new pedestrian scale fixtures that will be installed along 2nd Street. You can see 2 locations here. And you can see the red triangles are new intersection safety lights that will be part of the traffic signal modifications. And you can see the green circle is an existing light that will be removed. So designed properly, this lighting system will provide great lighting for bikes and pedestrians at night, but it will not create glare and light trespass. So what does that mean? That means this image here on the left, a properly designed light will only light what you intend to light. And we do that with different types of cutoff fixtures and properly selected fixtures that cast our light where we most need it. The light that's being proposed is an energy efficient light emitting diode technology. It's dark sky friendly. It doesn't cast its light into space. The color temperature will be less than 3000 Kelvin, so it doesn't impact our circadian rhythms of us or animals that might be in the area. And again, as I mentioned, it's going to feature a cutoff fixture that reduces the potential for light to go back into buildings and houses that might be to the south of these lights. Some examples here on the right of different fixtures that potentially could be used for this corridor are shown here. So thank you. We'd love to hear your questions about our updates or comments.
Again, you can put them in the question and answer, or I will start calling on people. So Jeff and Julia.
Yes, thank you. I simply wanted to clarify whether or not the entrance from west is to be unaffected and whether or not the full ingress and egress will still exist.
There's no change to entering on West Street.
Excellent. But again, on Marquard, it will only be entrance only onto Marquard.
There's no change. It's just that the current right turn ramp or the slip lane that allows you to go from Marquard onto 2nd Street, that will be shortened slightly.
Very good. Question answered. Thank you.
Okay, Bill Carney.
Yeah, hi. So a couple of things. There is a really magnificent London plane tree in the median between West Street and McCard. And I would like to request that you guys look very closely at the changes to the median curb and see if you can't leave those alone or adjust them so that the full existing route zone of that tree is protected. It really should be preserved. And it looks like you're inches away from being able to hold on to that really valuable asset. So thank you for that. And I'd also like to recommend to Amy's point that you add 2 species to the palette of trees for the corridor. They're both used out there already, either in existing or proposed developments. Those are London plane trees, creating exactly the kind of canopy and impact that she was referring to. And another one called Armstrong maples. The existing palette is fairly small trees, and we need some big ones to really carry a street of this scale. And then thirdly, I want to note that the original proposal here and what's called for in the bicycle and pedestrian master plan was for a multi-use path. And, I understand, I think, why there's a drift towards isolated bicycle facilities, but I really want to raise the banner for multi-use paths as we have along the smart right-of-way and elsewhere in the city. I think those are much preferable from a pedestrian standpoint. It's much more gracious and also provides a greater opportunity for street trees. And then going to Lindaro and 3rd for a second, I would advocate strongly to add a crosswalk on the west side of the intersection. The west side of the intersection of Lindaro and 3rd. Otherwise, you're forcing pedestrians from walking along the west side to cross 2 streets to get to one place, which is downtown. And I understand the traffic flows there is not optimal, but make it safe. If cars have to wait a little longer, that's okay. Look please closely at, you don't need to look closely, actually just look at the biomarin plans for that west area, west frontage of Lindaro. It has a major pedestrian pathway that's going to send hundreds of people, hopefully every day at lunchtime, up to 4th Street. And you need to have a direct path, otherwise you're asking for danger. The final thing is I want to thank you for doing a Zoom format and ask that you please convey on to the City Council that they do the same. Thanks very much. Bye.
That's it for hand raises. Oh, got one from Binky.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback off what Bill Carney was just saying. I hope that somehow, somewhere, we are, you know, the DPW and the planning teams are working together somehow to help better pedestrian safety down at the Lutens and Lindaro. I guess I would call it the complex. I want to thank you guys so much for re-examining that driveway and coming up with the exit only plan. And we still have so many questions, it feels like, that have been unaddressed about how are we going to handle the pedestrian flow on Lutens. Although it creates more safety at the Lindaro and 3rd Street driveway, it also creates more danger for pedestrians on Lutens by forcing more cars onto Lutens. And it's already a heavily pedestrian area. It's already been identified by the General Plan 2040 as a primary pedestrian spoke. We have the Biomarin project and potentially that other private project across that might incorporate what is now public parking to become apartments and, you know, still maintain 171 parking spots. So it's a very heavily pedestrian area. And I just want to reiterate a request for, you know, looking at crosswalks and what are we going to do to make it safer for pedestrians? Thank you.
Oh my gosh.
I heard it though, Lauren, so thanks.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay. Amy Lykover.
Hi there. Hi there. Yeah, just following up on what Binky said, I would also encourage you with the lens of pedestrian safety, especially accommodating what we hope will remain a large workforce at Biomarin, that any crosswalk that would lead from Biomarin to the downtown area actually be wider than your typical crosswalks. Really accommodate the number of pedestrians that will hopefully take that path, so that people aren't squished together and more likely to, you know, like fall off or walk on the street itself unprotected. I think that would be very appreciated by the employees, by the people who use the downtown area. It actually looks very cool. I've just returned from Japan and they actually accommodate a lot of people by wide crosswalks. Something that I think would almost hallmark our pedestrian corridors, especially from a big employer like Biomarin. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you everyone for the comments on the developments at the Lindaro intersection. The city and planning will be working with those developments to figure out what their plan is when we have an idea. At this point, we just know that there's projects that might occur, so we're not quite sure what they're going to look like and where their entrances are. And so we will be following up with them when we have a better idea.
Jean Severinghouse.
Hi, boy, it's looking great. Thank you so much. I just wanted to disagree with Bill Carney on one thing, which is the separation of bicycles and pedestrians is actually really desirable. More and more, I mean, I spent a lot of my life both on foot and on a bike on the multi-use paths. And no matter how polite everybody is, it's a little awkward. So the fact that, pedestrians are getting a brand new sidewalk through that area is really, to me, very precious and very exciting. And that it be separated from the bikes is terrific. So thank you.
Thanks, Jean. Sunny Lee.
Hello. Just want a quick mention. I put in a chat room. I don't know. I put in the wrong place. I'm concerned about the east side of the crosswalk at the intersection of Eva Street to the 2nd Street, like a T-shaped intersection. There's no crosswalk on the east side, so a lot of vehicles could actually make a left turn onto from Eva to 2nd Street. That was very beneficial, the flow traffic. And now there's a crosswalk is added, both east side and west side of the intersection. So I strongly suggest that eliminating the east side of the crosswalk. Wasn't there before. Since there's a crosswalk on the west side, the bicyclist or pedestrian could easily use one of those because it's quite heavily traveled by motorists in the mornings and afternoons. That will really create a huge backup. That's it. Thank you.
Sorry. Tyler Nielsen.
Yeah, so I just wanted to second on that. They should really not be separated from a biker's perspective. After biking on, and I've biked on both designs over by Northgate Mall. Biking on that is fine. You can go fast and stuff, and you can go, and you're not worrying about crashing into anybody. And over by the Smart Train tracks, over by the Civic Center, going there, you're constantly needing to yell as a biker, passing on the right, passing on the right. For something like this, that's going to be in downtown and probably have even more foot traffic than over there, for your safety reasons, I mean, keep them separate, or else you are going to, I can guarantee you, have incidents where bikers crash into pedestrians.
Thanks, Tyler. I don't see anyone else with their hands up, and I know that everyone's been busy responding to folks writing in the question and answer.
Hey, Lauren, there's one question from Jean in the Q&A that is a question for Robert and April.
So the question that Jean had written in was, would you please walk us through the G Street crosswalks and how the school bikers will travel north and south?
So as we can see on the screen here, G Street is on the top of the page, and here is 2nd Street. And we have our new sidewalk and class 4 bikeway on the south side of 2nd Street. And this area that's in brown is going to be a very large sidewalk area. If I'm a biker or a walker and I want to cross 2nd Street, I will come up to the ramp and I will push the ped button, and the traffic signal will then give me a walk button that will allow me to walk north across 2nd Street and then progress on my way up G Street. And I can do that on either side of the intersection. And this will perform like every other intersection throughout San Rafael.
Two more hands. Rob?
Yeah, thanks. Regarding that area you have showing up on the screen, 2nd and G Street, and it looks like you're expanding a little bit of the multi-use, I guess, their pathway. I would assume then, since you're cutting into the hillside, the wall, I guess, retaining wall, I imagine, would be a little higher there. And I think I've sent you a note too, April, regarding the retaining wall. Depending on how high it goes, that could become a magnet for tagging or graffiti. So I'm hoping we do have within the design some type of wall. I've seen them made out of rough material that makes it less attractive to graffiti. Is that in the design?
Yes, Rob, we're currently working on different options, based on your comments and knowing kind of options for tagging. Right now, we haven't made a decision. We're going to talk to the art community about potential for mural, or we're going to talk about different textures. We haven't made any decisions on that yet, but yes, tagging is definitely items of concern for us.
All right, great, thanks. Okay, want to make sure that was included.
Thank you.
Warren Wells.
Yeah, my question and comment is also this G Street intersection. So I'm just wondering about the width of the curb ramps, since they would be shared with both bicyclists and pedestrians. I just want to make sure that, like, for like an eastbound biker making that eastbound left onto G Street, that would be like an easy maneuver to make, that they wouldn't be kind of having to queue up in a space that would get in the way and block through cyclists, and that they would have an easy time if this is it sounds like this is going to be not an automatic recall, so they're going to have to hit that pedestrian push button, that would be placed in a location that would be easily accessible for someone on a bike. Those are my comments. Thank you.
We hear your comments, and we've integrated those concepts into this plan to make it as friendly for cyclists and pedestrians as possible, given the space that's available.
Yeah, and to emphasize, given the space that's available, we're limited to the amount of room there on the south side based on the hillside. So we're combining the two spaces into a mixing zone to allow for people who are just going east-west, not north, space to get around people waiting to go north.
Hey, April, Robert, this is Bill again. There's a series of questions about the G Street intersection in the Q&A that I hope you guys can address.
Yes, so it looks like Hunter's responding to Binky, but yeah, so the intersection.
Go ahead, April.
What?
It'll be easier if you go ahead and respond verbally to all these. They're interconnected. So.
Okay. So the first one is from Jean, specifically, how will the bikes in the crosswalk heading north on east side be protected in the signal from south left turning cars?
I can help answer. So we'll look into different phasing options. What's shown right now is just a crosswalk. So we'll just have to look into, maybe they have to walk their bike across the crosswalk. We'll look into it. We want to be mindful of progression on 2nd Street and 3rd Street always, but we are trying to improve other modes too. So we have to evaluate a lot of things.
So Lauren, isn't it true to say that, once the infrastructure is in place and the signal's been updated and we have all this great hardware in there, the city can then play with the phasing and make adjustments based on how use is occurring. So, we've got the foundation built, and then we can modify to accommodate use.
Yeah. So Binky's question is, I guess, concern about the signal timing. So just as Robert said, we're building the infrastructure, the timing and adjustments and all that. We're constantly updating. And so we'll make sure that we keep progression on second and third while, you know, better accommodating bikes and peds through the area. I think I have 2 more questions from Tyler and Jean, and then I'd like to move on to the next section. Tyler?
Oh, I didn't realize I still had my hand. I
Oh.
never lowered it. Sorry, my bad.
No worries. That might have been me too. I'm trying to. Okay. Jean, I don't know if you raised your hand or if you forgot to lower it.
No, I just am really wanting to know whether there could be a leading pedestrian interval or something on that east side north-south crosswalk across Second at G, because my experience going through there is a very high volume of children come through at once on bicycles, and they currently are on the other side, on the east side. I'm on the west side, but I really like it because it puts you in the wrong place on the street. So I really like that there's going to be a crosswalk on, you know, to put you on the right side of it on the east side, but there's a huge flow of cars that do use G3 as like the north-south cut through that are coming and turning left. So I don't think it slows down second at all, but the G Street cars, if you could hold them back from turning left, you know, something so that you protect that crosswalk. I guess I'm concerned, having a lot of experience with that intersection. I am concerned about that particular crosswalk. So thank you.
Thanks, Jean. Yeah, we can add in, that's a more simple solution, is adding in a leading pedestrian interval, and we'll be able to do that with the updated traffic signal controller there. Okay. I don't see anyone else with their hand raised, so let's move to the next section.
So we're going to talk about the fun part now. We get to build this great project. And I think all of us know that have lived through a construction zone. It can be a little disruptive if not properly planned, but you know, we in the city are working really hard and coming up with a process to get this project completed as efficiently as possible and minimize disruption for stakeholders and residents and businesses along the corridor. So we've developed kind of a series of thoughts about how this could be approached. So based on the scope and the scale of the work, we believe this is going to take about a year to complete. And we need to complete it in a logical sequence. The first part would be the utilities would do their work. Marin Municipal Water District and the Sewer District, as well as PG&E, would make infrastructure upgrades. We would then come in and do sidewalks and curb ramps at the intersections of A, B, C, D to downtown, as well as we'd work on our Second Street bikeway and all the enhancements that need to be made there. While we're doing our sidewalk and curb ramps, we would also be doing our traffic signals. And then once we have all of our hardscape and our signals in place, we would commence with the paving improvements, do the striping, and then we would install our street trees. In order to accommodate this work, there's going to need to be lane closures, because there's just not physically enough room to be able to do all this stuff and allow workers to work safely and give them work without closing a lane. So, you know, recognizing the current travel patterns that occur eastbound, typically along Second Street, lane closures would be allowed during off-peak periods from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And in the westbound direction, lane closures would be allowed from 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. There would be some night work required for really disruptive operations that take up a lot of space, sort of like paving, and maybe some very specific operations related to, say, utility improvement work. In order to do some of the hardscape work, we would have to close driveways. but they would only be closed for a period of up to 4 hours. And the city and its contractor would work with the property owners to make sure that that was a convenient time to close the driveway. But everybody would be allowed to get into their property at the end of the workday. So recognizing that construction is a very dynamic process, there would be a lot of outreach with the city and the contractor to residents of the community, as well as for those property owners that front the project. There'd be a lot of advanced noticing, both written, electronic blasts, as well as kind of in-person notifications. And we'd want to partner with the businesses to make sure that we do all sorts of strategies, signage and other measures to make sure that folks know that the businesses are open during construction. So with that, does anybody have any questions related to how we're planning on doing the construction?
I don't see any hands up. Give folks a minute to raise hands. Sunny?
Yes, I was wondering, when the last time I have found out kind of a hard way, the C Street and D Street two-way conversion, I literally like a day before driving by and seeing the crews painting the pavement in the opposite direction. And I thought I am paying attention for whatever the news from the public works, but I didn't hear anything. And I talked to some of the neighbors and post office and so on, and none of them seems like have gotten notice from the DPW in advance about the street changes. I know several staff just mentioned that they will outreach the public and residents, but I actually kind of wonder how you're gonna do this, because the one thing I saw is a tiny little 8x10 printout posted on the post of the street across from the post office last time in August. And I looked at it and like I wasn't walking the street to read that. And it's, if anybody else is reading that all the time to know what's happening. So I think there's some serious issues to address about the public to notified about these upcoming works. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunny. Yeah, we will continue. I have an email list of everybody who's expressed interest on this project. We post on Nextdoor, we post on our DPW news. We'll do some posts on, our Twitter account, and we'll have changeable message signs out there that will be on either end to kind of show when construction will begin. But we'll just keep notifying people that it's going to happen. It's going to be about a year of construction, so there'll be impacts during that whole time.
I don't see any further hands raised at this time.
So we are going to move on to our next steps. So it's been a long road since 2017, and we're really excited. We're getting ready to construct this project. So we have some final coordination items to do with the public utilities, and we have to get our designs finalized. But we'll be going to bid here in the next month or so. And then hopefully we'll have a contract awarded and we can start construction sometime later this summer of 2021. And then we should be done sometime by the late summer of 2022. So again, the best place to find out information about the project is the city's website. We have great updates as we move forward with the design and with the construction process, and we can provide great alerts to how things are progressing. Love to hear your feedback about anything that we presented tonight or any other items about the 3rd Street project. Please provide your comments to April by April 1st. Her email is there on the screen. So thank you all. If there are any other questions, I think we could probably take them now.
Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead, Amy. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Yeah, this is about the construction. Sorry that I thought of it just now. As you're rolling through the city and even with utilities making these improvements, are you using any downtown staging area for trucks, or will they simply come, work, and be gone?
We don't anticipate the contractor staging any equipment within the downtown area. The contractors typically find a space to do this work, and they'll be required to do that on private property.
Okay, and then one last thing, will there be any loss of parking, on street parking places during this, or will any of the trucks be posted, whatever, in any of the parking lots? Will this affect parking in any way?
The parking lots wouldn't be affected. I mean, there might be a time where there's an hour or so, or maybe a small delay for 20 or 30 minutes getting cars in or out. But we'll coordinate that. Usually that work happens in the earlier, the late afternoon hours, so it doesn't impact anyone. On-street parking could be disturbed for short periods of time to accommodate construction activities, but that will be noticed as required by the City of San Rafael.
Thank you.
Dan Bell.
Hi, can you please show more detail of the two-way bikeway on 2nd Street between G and Shaver, and also talk about what the protective berm will be between the bicyclists and the automobiles?
So
I don't think we have those slides, Robert, but I mean, we could, I don't know if you have
well, maybe we could just talk in general about it. So the protective berm along the stretch from East Street to G Street is a raised concrete median that provides a separation between the cyclists and vehicles. West of that location, east of that location, the concept currently is some sort of an asphalt berm with soft hit bollards. And you probably have also seen previously, we talked about using the soft hit bollards with the little armadillo or the zebra markers. Because our project budget and our project costs are still aligned with the bid, we're going to have to prepare several alternatives, and we're going to have to see where costs come in. And then we're going to have to pick a method that a protective measure that's consistent with our budget. And then I missed the first question because I was looking at the Q&A, April.
Yeah, they asked to see more details for the bike path between G Street and Shaver, but an image, but we didn't save one to this presentation, so it can be found on the website.
Yeah, it's on the website, but it's essentially the same two-way cycle track with a vertical delineator and striping that separates the bikes from the vehicles.
Okay. Diane Faulkner.
Hi, I'm sorry I missed the very beginning of the presentation. So pardon me if you already covered this. If you could just review to let us know how parking is going to be impacted with this final iteration of the project, because I remember from some previous meetings, the residents of our neighborhood here on East Street and West Street and were concerned about the loss of parking with this project. Could you just give a quick review of that?
Sure. So the project modifies, it removes some stalls and it adds some stalls. At the end of the day, there is no net change in the parking. And on the city's website, there's a great graphic that shows where parking is being adjusted.
Great, thanks so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the comment.
I don't see any more hands up. Again, staff's been answering questions in the question and answer, and we'll be capturing that. So we can post it with all this, the meeting presentation.
And then Lauren, just to answer the question, the website here, as you see on the screen on our presentation at San Rafael's website, the Public Works, there's a whole section on 3rd Street, and it has a wealth of information on the entire project's development, and it illustrates parking modifications, street trees, and all sorts of other great information.
Lori asked a question in the Q&A about where exactly is this parking exhibit. And on the 3rd Street website that Robert just referenced, it's called 2nd Street Proposed Parking. And it's a PDF that's on the website.
April, can you provide that link in the chat for folks? And we've got one more question from Sunny Lee.
I think it wasn't actually today's covered. And first of all, I would like to know how many people public are attending today for your presentation, because I think this needs to be seen by thousands of people, in my opinion, in San Rafael residents. So if there's only 10 people attending or 20 people attending, I'm very concerned. And secondly, there was not much mention about bulb outs, about the several intersections. I'm notably very, very concerned. Grand Avenue bulb out on the southwest corner, which is near the United Market. If you have been driving there every day, which I do, in the afternoon, in the mornings, there's massive traffic coming down on Grand Avenue from north to south. The cars getting boxed at the intersection. Often these cars veer to the right, close to the curbside, where the draft of the huge bulb out will take the place. Now, those cars have no place to go to, not to block the intersection. I understand people should not just tailgate the cars in front of them and not to stuck in the middle of the four-way intersection. But this happens every single day. narrowing those roads to just barely one car could pass, because now there's a huge bulb out, sticking out, will create the absolute nightmare. Boxing cars constantly, every signal changes. I think everybody in the traffic engineers must go there, watch it every day, different time of the day, what you see. I really beg everyone to go to the intersections at 4 o'clock, 3:30, 10:30, 9:30. Please go. Go stand there and watch it, what cars doing it. The area view that you guys use to draft on, this is like a, I don't know what time is taken. There's no cars on it. I mean, this is absurd to me. If I look at the Google map and area view of the intersection, there's a lot of cars on it. So
Thank you, Sunny.
thank you.
Yeah. I already forgot what the first question was. Oh,
Well,
yeah.
Just to clarify, the bulb outs that are proposed as the Third Street project really take advantage of some space that's not actually used by vehicles. They're actually within the parking lanes. So they actually don't block the flow of traffic. And they're actually really great because they shorten the pedestrian's crossing distance, which makes the traffic signal operate more efficiently. So there doesn't have to be so much time allocated to the pedestrian phase, but actually makes the vehicles move more efficiently through the intersection. And the design's been vetted with many different divisions within the city of San Rafael. Emergency vehicles, as well as large delivery vehicles, will be able to navigate this. So we're really excited that we think that this actually will improve circulation for all users along 3rd Street.
Now I remember your first question, Sunny. This meeting has been recorded and it will be posted to the website. Probably not for another week and a half because the city is furloughed, but it will be posted to the city website. So if anybody who wants to listen and watch can. Okay, well, it looks like we've answered everyone's questions. So thank you today for joining us, and feel free to contact me. My email is right there on the screen, and let me know if you have any additional comments.
Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate the opportunity to be with you this evening.
Thanks all. Sean, I think you were going to screen capture something, so just let me know when you're done, and then I can end the meeting.
Almost done. I'm gonna grab the open Q&As as well. I don't think there's anything there, but let me just grab those as well.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, everyone.
Excellent work, team. Have a lovely evening.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for me as well. That was a great presentation, Robert. Thanks.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Robert. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Robert.